These are all patients that have been sent to me by doctors. You see, these are 633. They are sent to from doctors to me, and where they do not understand the patient case. So I look at them, and then I will make a report. I write them an email, and then we can sort it out together. So this is a continuous learning once you have the iTrace. Let's start with aberrometry. What is aberrometry? Aberrometry is the technology to understand patients who have problems with seeing well. We have different technologies. The most commonly used is Hartmann check. And Hartmann check is used for many, many years together with excimer laser for laser vision correction. So if you hear aberrometry, most people automatically think about laser. But that is not really true. Those people for laser vision correction, they are young and their eyes are a little bit too long or too short or a little bit skew. And they want to get rid of their glasses. I want to use aberrometry for understanding people who don't see very well, and I use ray tracing technologies. Now, what is it? If I use this example, we see there are all these dots are rays of light that go through the eye. Here they enter the pupil, and this is how they end on the retina. If you see this small spot on the retinal spot diagram, you have good vision. So the secret of ray tracing technologies with the iTrace is that we shoot each and every of those points separately, sequentially. That means one shot here, one image there, one shot here, one image there. In this way, I can measure through glasses, I can measure through contact lenses, I can measure through IOLs, even multifocals, torics, even if they're tilted or misaligned. So, in fact, this is the light going into the eye, and this is the image on the retina. But most patients who come to the doctor, they don't have good vision. You see here, this is not so good. What do? We give them glasses. And you see here, I reduce this, and I'm overcorrected, undercorrected, and this here is best corrected, minus 9.5. It means that here, this is what the autorefractor would give you, minus 10.5 or 10.4. This is the objective refraction, and this is here is the subjective. Now you understand that the refraction that you get from the autorefractor is not always what the patient likes in the glasses. If I put this here, see 10.4, you think the patient will like this or that he will like this? Well, he will have his sharpest vision with the minus 9.5. So here you see this is the patient without glasses, and here I measured him with glasses. And you see here, he's very well corrected. He's very happy. And then you have people who come and they have an image like this. And you see, if we put glasses in front of them, it will never work. They will never be 1.0 or 20/20 or 100%. And this is because they have higher order aberrations. Now, the purpose of this webinar today is to explain aberrometry in the simplest way. And most of the time when people hear aberrometry, they run away because it's difficult and they don't understand. It's my goal to explain you that it's very easy. We see here that this patient cannot be corrected with normal glasses. The normal glasses, they correct lower order. Lower order are here, and they consist of two parts. defocus, which is the myopia and hyperopia, and astigmatism as cylinder. The higher order has a couple of components. The most important one is coma, the second one is spherical, and the one that we also hear often is trefoil. Now, what is coma? I will show you a coma. You see those rings here, they fold on top of each other. And if you will see this in 3D, this is high and this is low. Two focal points. This means coma gives you blur and double vision. How do you see it in real life? A patient comes to you and he complains about a shadow or a ghost image, a monocular diplopia. So if you hear a second image, then you automatically look for a coma. A coma can happen during the day or at night. It can always happen. A spherical aberration looks like this. You see the distance between those rings becomes bigger. That's a positive spherical aberration. And spherical aberration gives you glare and halo. It means if you are driving at night and a car comes towards you, you see the ring of light around the light source, and that is caused by spherical aberration. Now, these glare and halos, they only happen at night, so this is more a nocturnal aberration. If you look at the sphere, at the football, then you know it's round. But if you look at only a small part, then it's flat. So that's why if people talk about spherical aberration inside of 2.5 or 3 millimeter, that's impossible.
And sorry, Karel, there is a question from Professor Lanza. He says, is the refraction measured at the corneal plane or taking into account the spectacle distance?
There is a vertical distance of 12 meters taken into account.
We can verify this value behind the Tracey refraction. Now, is VD 12 millimeters? Is this one?
Yes, the VD is 12. The vertical distance is 12 millimeters. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So the spherical gives you glare and halo. Trefoil gives you starburst. Starburst is when you drive towards, at night, you drive towards a car and there's rays of light coming out of the light source. If it's 3 rays of light, they call it trefoil. If it's 4, excuse me for the Italians, but it's old Greek, it's tetrafoil, pentafoil, heptafoil, hexafoil. So we call it the foils. How can you see it here? Well, I always look at the dark blue ring because it's closest to the pupil. And the starburst only happens at night. So if the dark blue ring here is round, we have no problems with trefoil. When it's edgy, then you will have trefoil. So very easy to, you don't, like if you have a car, you don't really have to know exactly how that engine is working, but you need to drive it. So use the higher order aberrations as coma is double vision. Patient complains about a second image, look for a coma. Patient complains about glare and halo, look for a spherical aberration. And a patient was complaining from starburst, look for a trefoil. Now we can now recognize them. Look, this patient has coma and spherical aberration, no trefoil. When is it clinically significant? And here I have put the square around the most important number, higher order total, 404 microns. Well, aberration or wavefront is always measured in microns. And microns are the same in Belgium as in Italy or between the different systems. And I have a very simple rule, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. Between 0 and 0.2, everything is fine. It means the patient does not have really complaints, and you can refract this patient to 1.0 or better. Between 0.2 and 0.3, you have 50% probability that the patient will have an issue. Between 0.3 and 0.4, we had 75%. And starting with 0.40, 100% problems. So here we see 0.40 microns. 404 is 40 microns. Now I'm wearing reading glasses because I just turned 50 the other month. If I take them away, I can't see the numbers, but I could easily see that the color of the refraction is red. This color of this refraction is linked to this number. We have a quite sophisticated algorithm that will translate this higher order total number into the color of the refraction. If the color is green, you can refract that patient to 20/20 or better. If it's yellow, there might be a problem. If it's red, there is problems. So here we know the patient has problems. So we see coma is 31, so 3/4 is coma. So the patient has coma, he sees double images. A little bit elevated is also the spherical, and that means the patient has glare and halo. So you don't have to know this by heart. I have a button that can help you, VFA. Can I ask Nicola to mute his microphone, please? Thank you. If I click on the VFA, it's asking for the second eye. I don't want it. We can clearly see here blurred double vision, glare halo. Okay, here this is what the patient would see at night. And if I decrease the zone, this is what the patient would see during the day. So on almost every of the displays of the Tracey, you can enlarge the zone or you can reduce it. Okay, now I will show you some examples. First, an example of a coma. Coma is the most important aberrations, by the way. So we see here, if you divide this square in 4 quadrants, we see everything is now in quadrant 1 and 4. You see, everything is pushed to one side. The Tracey, the higher order total is 0.24, which is not that high, but 95% is coma. Therefore, the refraction is yellow with a pupil of 4.3. So the patient has coma, he will see double images. And that is what we see here, blurred double vision. You can also see it here in the refraction map. Here at this point, there is a minus 1.5, and here is a plus 1.5. So there's a difference of 3 diopters in this small zone of 3.6 millimeters. Now, you can see 3 minutes later, I have measured the same patient, and now the pupil is bigger. What can we see? We can still see the coma, and now we see spherical aberration. The higher the total is 0.42, therefore red, with a pupil of 6.3. The biggest part is again the coma, but also elevated is a spherical aberration. This means blurred double vision and glare halo. This is what the patient would see at 3 millimeter, and this is what comes at 5.5. So this means that you have to measure the patient in a dark room. Or let's say that we should try to get the pupil as big as possible in a natural way, without medication, without drops, so that we get the biggest scotopic pupil that we can have, and then you can identify the problems. So here this patient has coma and spherical aberration. If you look at this patient, everything is fine. See, this is small, 0.16, it's green with a pupil of 5.1. But if you turn off the light, all of a sudden we see spherical aberration coming up. And now the higher order total is 34, which is a lot, but the refraction is still green. It means that spherical aberration doesn't weigh in as much as coma. Coma is more disturbing than spherical aberration. So this patient will suffer from glare and halo, but also something else. Night myopia. You see here in the middle, it's very central, he has +3/4. And at night, he has -1/2. These are the people who, during the day, they drive like Michael Schumacher used to drive. And at night, they drive like the granddaddies. And I can show you why. You see, those rings have a color. And you see here in the center, the red is here. The red is the smallest. Here we are at +3/4. But at night, you will need -3/4. So that's a difference of 1.5 diopters. Okay, so this was the spherical aberration. Let's have a look at this one. Well, that's already a very interesting pattern. What can we see? We can see a very big spherical aberration. And we can see that the trefoil is there because the blue ring is not round. If you go to higher order total, it's 1.25. It's not 0.25, it's 1.25. And the biggest part is coma. But I couldn't see the coma. That's why I can unfold it completely. And here it is. This is the coma. And the coma is very central. Okay? Well, if you read this, then you can say, like, look, the central is very small. So the vision during the day will probably be good. Let's have a look. So 1.25, of which 0.80 is coma, so he will have double vision. Very high is also the spherical aberration, which creates glare and halo. And the trefoil is very high too. So you will see blurred double vision, glare, halo, and starburst. We said that this vision during the day should be good. So this is at 2 millimeters. You can see it here, 2 millimeters. Look what happens at 3. That's where the coma is already coming in. You see, this is high and this is low. Everything, the coma is still there at 4. At 5, we start to see the beginning of a spherical aberration. And this is what we have with full scan. Now, why? Look at this pupil. The patient has a pupil of 7.5 millimeters. And this is a young guy who had laser vision correction. Let's now have a look at the topography. You see here, everybody knows placido disc topography. It's a very good way of identifying the shape of the anterior part of the cornea. It's also a very good way to identify if there's tear film problems, yes or no. If you want to look better at the shape of the cornea, you can use another technology like anterior OCT or an old technology like Scheinflug. You see here, those rings are very nice. It means the quality is good. If I go to CT summary, we see here the axial map. And this is man-made. You can see this is not how a normal cornea would look like. I will show you a normal cornea. This is how a normal cornea looks like. Everything is green, everything is fine. But this one is man-made. And you see the cornea has been flattened. It means this was a laser vision correction for myopia. Remember, blue is the sea, red and red is the mountains. Okay, what can we see here in the middle? This is high and this is low. That's the cause of his coma. And we know it's very central. What happened to this specific patient? This was a long time ago, 2009, and the doctor used the blade of the keratome, not for 2 eyes, but for 20 eyes, I guess. And the blade of the keratome was not sharp anymore, and it pushed forward and it made an irregular cut of the flap. Secondly, we said that the patient's pupil is 7.5. How big was the optical zone? Well, we see here 3.2 and the other 2.8. So that's a 6 millimeter optical zone. Well, you can understand that if you have a 6 millimeter optical zone and a pupil of 7.5, that this will cause night vision problems with glare and halo. Let's look at this patient. You see here, the shape of this is very organized. And when we reduce, he has a minus 1.25 in myopia, but we see a very nice cylinder. This is an astigmatism. The higher order is low, 009 is green with a pupil of 4.4. So this is an astigmatism. Let's now go back to the topography. And we see the rings are very nice. And you take the summary, and we see a very nice bow tie. Now, how do I always describe an astigmatism? I use always 3 adjectives. The first one is with the rule or against the rule. With the rule happens about 60% of all astigmatism. That's why they call it with the rule. There's a rule. The second adjective is regular or irregular. When I can put a line from top to bottom of the astigmatism and it's in one straight line, it's very regular. And if I can't do this, for instance, like this with a hook, then it's called irregular. Why is it important? Because a regular astigmatism can be treated with a toric, and irregular, no chance. And the third adjective that I use is symmetrical or asymmetrical. You see here, if this part is almost the same as this part, then we have a symmetrical bow tie. If one part is bigger, then we talk about an asymmetric bow tie. Why is this important? Because you can use a toric on asymmetric astigmatisms. You just have to be very careful for overcorrections. So now we know this is the structure and this is the function. Let's take those two at the same time. I always call this the miracle of iTrace. And this is the image we just saw, but this is in diopters. And wavefront is measured in microns. That's why those two images are the same. They're just translated. Okay, here we have all the K values that you need. We have asphericity, we have all the Q values, we have everything. Those two displays here is the total eye, the wavefront, with the higher order total that we now understand, the multi-zone refraction, the color of the Tracey refraction, and the size of the pupil. Now, the total eye minus the cornea will give you the internal, and the internal is for 95% the lens. So very easy. If those two images here are the same, the astigmatism is on the cornea. If those two images are the same, the astigmatism is internal. So that is what we see right now. Those two images are the same, so we are talking about a corneal astigmatism, 100%. This means that this patient, if he would be young, he would probably be a good candidate for a laser vision correction. Or if this patient would would be ready for a cataract surgery, he will probably benefit very much from a toric IOL. Look at this next example. We see an astigmatism, no sphere. The quality is good, pupil is normal. So now I want to know where the astigmatism is. And we can see the astigmatism is 100% internal. This is a lenticular astigmatism. And would you do laser vision correction on this patient? Well, if you want to keep him later on as a toric patient, yes. But I think he might be a better candidate for a toric ICL. If you would perform a cataract surgery, does this patient need a toric? No, because look how beautiful this cornea is. And then we have a lot of these cases.
Can I have a question, please?
Yes.
Karel, Andrea, nice to meet you. How are you?
Very good, very
The
good.
question is, in the previous case, you have homocentric cornea. We know that, for example, if the patient needs to perform cataract surgery, we need to correct with toric IOL this kind of patient, because we know that at the end of the surgery with a monofocal non-toric, this patient will have an against the rule astigmatism for the homocentric condition of the wavefront corneal and for the physiological tilt of the IOL at the end of the surgery.
But this cornea has no astigmatism whatsoever. It's less than a quarter.
Homocentric for clinician, not for physics, is against the rule for us.
So are you telling me, well, I'm sorry, perhaps I didn't understand the question. Are you telling me that every cornea that is very flat needs a toric?
No, not flat. Every cornea without astigmatism is like in this case, needs a correction. This is a classic patient to be enrolled with toric low add correction, IOL, in my opinion.
So this means if you see that there is no astigmatism in the cornea,
yeah.
you are going to put preventively a toric in against the
astigmatism is a little bit against the rule, and we know surely that this patient at the end of surgery will have an against the rule refractive astigmatism.
Well, yesterday I was reading some articles in Germany. Only 3% of all patients get a premium IOL or a toric. If what you are saying is true, it would be a good news for the lens companies. It means that all the normal, with a quarter of astigmatism against the rule, will get a toric.
Yeah.
Well, then I think the lens companies will be very happy to hear this.
This is good for Barrett and toric calculators and the companies, but this is the
true, yes, this is from the field.
Indication we need to perform to have better results in this case. But this okay. Go on. Sorry, just to.
Yes, we will go very deep into torics, because torics is one of the systems where the iTrace is really helping. So let's talk about that later. The last case that I want to present to you to explain the iTrace is this one. And I always say there are 3 levels of iTrace users. The first one is what we just are doing now, the simple basic understanding. The second is where we're going to do from now on, is how to use it in daily practice. And then you have a third level, is trying to objectively show and understand the very difficult or crazy patients. But this is not a crazy patient, but this is a very common patient. What do we see? His wavefront is very good. Minus 0.009, the quality is good. He has minus 1 1/4, and the pupil is 4.7. So everything is fairly normal with this person. But I can see here is with the rule, there is an astigmatism of 1.2. 1.2 and 0.2. So I am missing one diopter. These are the patients who come to your office and they have an astigmatism in the cornea, but they do not accept it in the glasses. So where is it? Well, it's in the lens. And I always ask myself, why? Why is this in the lens? And then I realized that the lens is working. The lens is performing something. And the only thing that the lens can do is accommodate. And there is one number on this screen that will tell you that this patient is accommodating. And it's this one. Negative spherical aberration. Let me try to explain this to you. I also want to draw your attention to the K values of this case. You see, he's at 38, 39, which is very flat. This means this patient is a young patient. He has had laser vision correction. He has a PRK. But they did not take away his astigmatism. They only took away his glasses. Now, I can take this image and pull this apart. So this is the same image where we have the lower order with sphere and cylinder. We have the higher order with coma, spherical, trefoil, and secondary astigmatism. And you see here, he has negative spherical aberration, which comes from the lens. So his brain does not like the image that he's getting from the cornea. So it will give an order to the lens, do something about it, and he's accommodating to make it better. How can I prove this to you? Let's go and have a look at accommodation. I have an example here. It says accommodation young patient, and it's Karel Fabry, it's me. But it is taken 11 years ago, okay? So, and if you look at my refraction 11 years ago, it's plus half. At this moment, it's plus 1.2. Okay? And with the iTrace, I can take an image with the patient looking very far, but I also can give him something to read. And I can measure through the system his reading abilities. And this is me reading. And you see here, now I'm doing 2.3 diopters. So if I take this far field and I compare with the near field, I am measuring accommodation. You see here, I am pushing in total 3.3 diopters. My lens is here and it pushes down, and I have a total of 3.3 diopters. But look what happens to my spherical aberration. It goes from normal to negative. If I look at my normal eye, you see here, it's slightly negative because I am accommodating for this to get rid of the hyperopia. And this is what happens when you look at me reading. You see a massive negative spherical aberration. So let's go back, and this sometimes can explain patients who are young and they have headaches. They don't wear glasses, and if you see that they have a negative spherical aberration, please measure them in cyclorefraction. They could have an accommodative spasm. Or people that you want to do laser vision correction on. If you see that this is negative, please measure them in cyclo. There is one other case where you can find negative, or two other cases where you can find negative spherical aberration. One is post-hyperopic laser vision correction, and the second is post-op trifocal. because trifocus will cause negative spherical aberrations. So this was the first part where I tried to explain where to look and how you can understand the iTrace. Now I'm going to show you how you're going to use it. And as you know, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor, I don't have patients, but my patients are doctors. So, and this was a doctor who came to me, and I measured his eyes, and I see this is his right eye, and this is his left eye. And I realize he's here because of his left eye. So we see this is very, very bad. What is wrong with him in his left eye? And you see those two images are the same. The problem is in the lens. Well, a problem in the lens, this is what we call cataract. So I tell him he has a cataract, and he's very, very upset, very angry. He says, no, impossible that I have a cataract. And that time he was 48 years old. And I show this to him, and I explain him, look, the noise, this is with Zernicke, but the noise that comes in your eye comes from the internal, not the external. This is a cataract. And why did he tell me that it was impossible? Because he knows that he sees very bad. He can no longer perform cataract surgery. And he's from America, and he has two other doctors working in his studio. So what would you do? He asked his colleagues, can you please have a look? And they look with a slit lamp, and they say, everything good. He says, oh my God, my retina is gone. So he runs to the OCT, they take an OCT, everything perfect. He says, oh my God, I might have keratoconus. And now he runs to the Scheimpflug image, the pentacam, and everything looks normal. And now he really has a problem. Because he says, I'm a good surgeon, and my colleagues are good surgeons, and nobody knows what's wrong with me. I've got a brain tumor. And he's very, very upset and very frustrated. And he says, that's it. I'm going to Europe. They're always a couple of years ahead, and I'm going to visit them. So in 2009, he came to the Barcelona ESCRS meeting. And he puts his head in all the machines there. iDesign, Pentacam, everything, OCTs, name it. And they all say perfect. Except the iTrace. In 2 seconds, I could see he had a cataract. How can I see this? And forget about this image. You're probably not going to see it again. What we are going to use in daily practice is this. I have a button called Cataract Evaluation. This is what the patient sees. It's not the cornea, it's the lens. So this will be the first image you will see. Here you have the pupil size, you have the refraction with the color, and here you see higher order is 34 of the total eye, divided between cornea and internal. Why couldn't they see his cataract? Because there was no opacity. But from 0 to 10 on a dysfunctional lens index, he scores a 2.45. And that's definitely cataract. So, in fact, the iTrace can see a cataract 2 years before you can see it with your slit lamp. One of my customers compares the iTrace to a predictor stick, you know, for pregnancies. You don't need a predictor stick after 8 months because you can see that the woman is pregnant, but you need it after month number 1. So I can detect a cataract 2 years before you can see it with your slit lamp, because there's a change in refractive index in the crystalline lens. So how do we see this? This is very useful, but I'm going to show you which button will pay for the iTrace. And it's this button, these small glasses. If I click on it, and there are no glasses, it means uncorrected visual acuity. This is what the patient would see without glasses. And if you click one time, then you will see that they take away the sphere. And if you click once more, now you have full spectacle correction. It means this is best corrected visual acuity when you take away the astigmatism. So you see here, it doesn't change wearing glasses, yes or no. But what you can say to your patient is, okay, look, you have a cataract. I'm going to take care of this, but I have one more question. Would you like to see like this after the surgery? Or would you like to see like this? Oh, okay, like this. Okay, this is 800 euros extra. Because this is a toric lens. You know, sometimes, well, most of the time, those people with cataract, they're elderly people. And it's not easy to explain them what a toric lens will do. First of all, they are in shock that they have a cataract. And secondly, you have to explain them that they need a lens and it's going to cost them extra. So these discussions could be very long and tedious. But here you can say, look, I can have a normal lens from the mutuality, this is this, or I can give you a special lens in your eye and your vision will be better. So if they say, no, I want to have the one from that doesn't cost extra, you say, very good, but this is how you will see, and I will prescribe you glasses. It's always good to explain the patient what they're going to see, otherwise the patient is going to think that you did a bad job. But this patient is young, and he has been to another doctor than you. He's been to Dr. Google. Everybody knows Dr. Google. He says, doctor, I have heard about these lenses that can make me read without glasses. So the patient is asking for multifocals. Okay, now I go to my next screen. And the next screen is MTF. MTF stands for modulation transfer function. And to be honest, a couple of years ago, I did not understand MTF and I wanted to get rid of it in the software because everybody was asking me about it and I couldn't explain. And now I understand it and I use it for every single eye. Okay, because it's very important. And this is my gift to you today, it's for free. I'm going to explain you MTF in a very simple way. Modulation transfer function, or MTF, is about optical quality. And optical quality is linked 100% to contrast sensitivity. So if you hear MTF, think contrast. Okay? So how do we normally measure contrast? Is with a map against the wall, with the lines, and they're getting smaller and closer to each other and different color. How do I read this display? From 0 to 100%, I have my my contrast. 100% contrast, it means if I close my eyes or I open them, the difference between black and white is 100% contrast. Here on the X, we have cycles per degree, 5, 10, 15, 25, 20, 25 times. So we said about these tests. So if I have this distance and I make 5 lines and I can see them and distinguish them one from another, I've got good vision and normal contrast. If I have the same distance and I make 10 lines and I can still see them and distinguish them one from another, I've got better vision and higher contrast. The same distance, I make 15. Now it's getting difficult, and 20, forget about it. So the last point that we will need to understand this graph is what does a normal patient see? And we have it here at 41% at 10 cycles per degree. Here, this is the happy point. So the goal is to keep the yellow line as far as possible from the danger zone. Perhaps it will help you if I correlate with something you know. This line of 10 cycles per degree is almost coincides with the 1.0. The 5 coincides with 0.8. The 15 is 1.2, 1.5, 1.8. So, what about this patient? Well, we see his vision is very, very bad because of the cataract. Okay? But this is going to go away. So I only want to see the cornea. I want to understand if this cornea is premium enough to support a premium IOL. Very well, when I talk to surgeons, I ask them, do you do multifocals? And they say, yeah, well, yeah, perhaps, but not anymore, or no, I'm still waiting. Well, the results are not so very reliable and all of that. And I think this is because your pre-selection is not objective enough. Most of our criteria are very psychological. He needs to have the right expectations. He needs to not be a lawyer or a judge or a member of the family. He needs to have enough money. No jobs like driving a truck at night. These are all random criteria. I need objective criteria from the eye. You're ophthalmologist, not psychologist. Okay, so, and this is the MTF of this eye without correction. And we end here. I always concentrate on the 1.0, on this one, on this line. And we are here at 0.27. How does a 0.27 look like? Well, it looks like this. Okay? So this is 0.27. But in cataract surgery, you aim for emetropia. So I take away the sphere. Now we are at 37. Okay, 37. And this is how a 37 looks like. Okay, is this good? Well, I mean, you can drive a car, and if you walk on the street, you will probably not bump into people. But do you think that this is a good medium to put a multifocal lens behind? I don't think so. So, what does a multifocal do? A multifocal divides the light in different parts. We have the far vision, intermediate, near for the trifocals. We have for the EDOFs, some more spread. But let's talk about the trifocals. They go from 100% of energy to a small spot, divided in 3 parts. So let's say 70, 20, 10, or 60, 20, 20. Whatever you do, you're going to reduce the 100% to lower. It means this yellow line is going to go into the danger zone. And that means that you will have an unhappy patient in your waiting room post-op. But this guy also has an astigmatism. And we see here, it is an oblique astigmatism of 0.75. Well, when I talk to doctors, they say, like, when do you start considering torics? I very often hear 1 diopter, 1.2, 1.25, but if you follow the literature and you see the presentations on the podium, you know that they are starting to talk about 0.7 for multifocals. So can I show you what happens if you take away the astigmatism here? I click on this button, and now you have enough margin to allow a multifocal. Listen very carefully. I did not say a toric. that is your choice. You're the surgeon. If you want to do this with LRIs, if you want to do this with PRK or a toric, it's your choice. It's my job to tell you, if you don't take care of this astigmatism, then this patient will be unhappy. But at least now you understand why the big companies, they come with a T2 that corrects 0.68 on the cornea, or 0.7 on the cornea. Because they've understood that if you don't take care of the astigmatism with multifocals, you're going to be in trouble. And I heard another of your colleagues tell me, he said, Karel, the astigmatism is not so much a problem for the far vision with multifocals, but it will definitely be a problem for the near vision. Okay, so then I have a third button called angle kappa and alpha. Here you see those 4 white lines is the first Purkinje reflex. And the center of the reflex is the red cross. That's your visual axis or the closest approximation. The green circle is the pupil. So the green cross is the center of the pupil, and the distance between green and red is what we call angle kappa. But angle kappa, it can change. With constricting and dilating, it changes. That's why angle kappa is a variable. And that's why I use it not so much. But if you know the center of the white to white, and that's the blue cross, the blue and the red is what we call angle alpha. If you know the center of the limbus, then you also know the center of the capsular bag, and that is most probably where that lens is going to center. So this is a stable number, and here you can predict if an eye, well, if a lens, a multifocal, will center around the visual axis, yes or no. So very short, this number, angle alpha, should be less than 650 microns. I know that the literature says 500 microns, but this is mainly coming from America, and they're always behind. So there they say 500 microns because they're still working on the restore, rezoom, and now they start to work with other lenses. I have seen patients with trifocals who are happy with 600 up to 650 microns. It's your own limit that you set for yourself. Okay? So that's how you're going to use the iTrace. Let's imagine that this patient is sitting in your waiting room, and you have this software on your desk. The system is sitting somewhere. The technician has taken the image. So before you call this patient in, you have never seen it. You say, "Who is this?" Ah, yes, this is a cataract. Do I have to talk about torics? Yes, it makes sense. Multifocal. No. Well, multifocal toric, yes. How is the orientation? Perfect, thank you. I forgot to tell you, I look very fast because I want to see the 3 crosses inside of the 4 lines. Perfect, please come in. So this way you can very easily and fast select if a patient is premium enough, or the cornea of the patient is premium enough to have a premium lens. And even if they're not, and they're borderline because of dry eye, for instance, then you can start a therapy, and then you can say, look, your number is now here. When it's there, we can go ahead. So it's a little bit co-management with your patients, that they will understand something with numbers. Okay, so premium lenses, everybody likes, well, they're very appealing. Multifocals is a little bit dangerous, but torics, everybody likes torics. Why? Because the patients are happy. If the patients are happy, doctors are happy. And if doctors are happy, I am happy. But what will be your first question when the patient is not happy. Probably it will be, where is that lens? I know exactly where I've put it, where is it now? And I'm not going to discuss, there's probably 10 different systems that can help you calculate the toric. And there's 3 or 4 methods to put them in the eye. We have Aura, we have Callisto, we have this. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk to you what to do when the patient is unhappy afterwards. Then you only have one friend, and it's the iTrace. So these are some unhappy patients. Let's talk about this case, it's very interesting. We have here an astigmatism of 3 diopters. Okay, so this patient needed a T7 or a 3 diopter on the cornea, which means a 450 lens. But in America, they were always late. She got a T5 because the T7 was not approved, and it was correcting 2. So here we have 3 diopters in the cornea. We have 2 in the lens. So 3 minus 2 is 1. Okay, but I want to talk about the positioning. And here we see the astigmatism of the cornea is at 90 degrees. 90 degrees, it means the lens should be at 0, but it is at 7. What to do? We now know that lens is 7 degrees off. Should I rotate? Yes or no? Well, I cannot do vector analysis in my hand. That's why I have a button here called Toric check. And this will be the second button that you will like the most in the iTrace. The first one is how to make money with the toric. The second one is a toric check. If I click on it, you see this is where the lens is sitting right now. And this is where it should be. This is the reflection before. This is what you need to do. And this is the improvement. 0.2 diopters. It's not worth your while. And the most important number on this screen is this. This is the predicted post-op refraction. So this is what you will get if you do the rotation. You see, 3 minus 2 is 1. That's the best I can get. The undercorrection here is the most important mistake. It goes from minus 1.25 to minus 1. That's the best we can change. There's another interesting number here. You see here, this is the cornea, and this is the lens. For those of you who want to study the true power of an IOL in the eye, compared to what is written on the box of the IOL, they can use this number. So here, the undercorrection was the mistake and not the orientation. But this would be very dangerous because this patient could be unhappy 3 times and will cost you a lot of money. Because she's unhappy post-op when she sees this, and then you're going to say, wait a minute, I told you before that sometimes these lenses rotate. Unfortunately, it's happened to you. No problem, I'm going to do a slight rotation and you're going to be very happy. That's when she will be angry the second time. And the third time, because you have to do a PRK or an exchange or an add-on. Next patient is not happy after toric. Okay, and we see here astigmatism is at 85. It means the lens should be at 175, but it's at 20. I call this shit happens. Well, you didn't put the lens there, I'm sure, but sometimes those lenses rotate, and mostly they rotate within the first few hours after the operation. So I need to change this, I need to rotate this lens back to 175. It means change of 25 degrees. Yes, and this is the improvement. But that is not the most important number here. This is the most important number. Here you can say to your patients, you know what? I told you sometimes these lenses change. Unfortunately, it has happened to you, but no big problem. I'm going to rotate that lens back to the original position, and you're going to be very happy. You can say this because the power in the eye is good. Next patient is unhappy after torics. So we see here the cornea is at 87 degrees. It means the lens should be 177. Wait a minute. It is 177. The lens is sitting perfect. There's nothing I can do. Why? Well, look at this. This is the cornea. This is the lens. The residual is in the same direction as the lens. The lens is too strong. In fact, we can see here the cornea was 2 diopters, and they've put in a 3.6 lens. So we are overcorrected with 1.5 diopters. And then again, I will ask why. Why did this happen? And then I see that this astigmatism is asymmetric. This doctor has used only his IOL master. And what does an IOL master do? It will measure the highest point. And here they find 47.8. And the flat axis is at 90 degrees, which is 45. So that's 2.8 diopters. But if you correct 2.8, and here you only need 1.3, you're overcorrecting with 1.5 diopters. How can you calculate this? And this is more practical knowledge than software. I always go to the highest spot and go to 180 degrees. I see 46.3, and here 45. I want to look at 135. Here, this one. I'm going to put in a 200 lens. That's my advice. So this is 3 examples of what you can do with the iTrace for toric lenses post-op. And now I want to go to a next level, because I know that all of you are very intelligent people. And I know all of you have a lot of experience. And I hear you thinking, and I see it all the time. I see, like, I got this. I think I don't need to buy an iTrace for this. I can dilate the pupil. It doesn't cost me anything. I can look with my slit lamp. I go to internet, www.astigmatismfix.com, and I find it. And I don't have to buy a 50,000 euro system. Okay, now I'm going to some cases that will prove you different. This is a very brave surgeon, because she operated on her mentor. And the mentor got 2 toric lenses. And we see here, the first eye, the astigmatism is at 120. So the lens should be at 30, but it's at 29. 1 degree off, you know, in ophthalmology, 1 degree does not exist, okay? But the beauty of this is, look, this minus this is 0. It's perfect. This is a perfect case. But the other eye was not so perfect. So we take the iTrace, we measure, and you see here, 26. So this means the lens should be at 116, and it's at 137. That's 21 degrees off. 21 degrees. You see here, 47, and this is 26. 21 degrees off. And this doctor said to me, but wait a minute, I don't believe you. I don't believe your iTrace or you. Okay, why not? He said, because I have just spent a lot of money upgrading to an IOL Master 700. And I also have my Pentagram HD. And I still have my old orb scan, and for all my toric cases, I do always those 3 measurements. I put them in an Excel, and all 3 measurements, and she showed me the paperwork, they tell me my lens should be at 51. And now you're telling me my lens is sitting at 47. I said, yes. So this means that you have done a good job. You've put the lens exactly where you planned. And then I saw it. I don't know if I can, yes, I can annotate here. You see, I also have 51. See here? I also have 51. But the patient is only using the center. He has a small pupil, and she's only using this. So this is really something, because these are the cases. Now you dilate the patient, and the lens is sitting exactly where you've planned it. And you can go to www.astigmatismfix.com whenever you want. And now your fantasy starts to go. Your fantasy, now this might be a retinal astigmatism, or even worse, the back of the cornea. And the only thing that is wrong here is that you measured in a wrong spot. So that's why it's very important that you only measure what the patient is using. In scotopic people say, look, I can show you that I also have 51. See here? I have 51. But the patient is using, oh, the 26 or 28. So this is a case that is very simple to explain. I have another one. You know, most of the professors, they have this. This was a professor, a very high, one of the highest in Germany, and he calls me and he says, Karel, your toric check tells me to rotate the lens 70 degrees. And I was driving my car, I couldn't have a look. I said, okay, what is the subjective refraction? He says, plus 1.5 minus 3. I said, do it. Rotate it, because the power of the IOL is perfect. So rotate it. And I said, but it's not a toric. Okay. And I know what's going on. I said, probably your lens is not completely unfolded. And he said, that's impossible. I said, well, send me the case and I will show it to you. So he sends me the case, and I go to my work screen and I see here, do you know if this lens is round? You can't see, neither can I. So I right click, I go to edit, and I make a radial ruler. Yeah, most lenses are 6 millimeters. Let's make a 6 millimeter. And I put it here. Do you think this lens is round? No, it's oval. You see? I asked him which kind of lens it was. He couldn't tell me. He said it's classified, it's a study. I asked him which material. He couldn't tell me. But then I showed him that the lens is not completely unfolded. Why? It could be a memory effect. It could be that they are using a different material. It could be that the lens was damaged because it went through a too small aperture, or it was preloaded too long. I don't know. But he went to the manufacturer and he said, your lens is not completely unfolded. I said, impossible. And then he showed them the images, and they looked at several ones, and they discovered it was a problem with the material, and they changed the complete production.
Karel,
Yes?
Just to add one aspect, if you look at the P4 reflex, look that they are not spherical, but they are oval. This is tilt. This is an unfolding IOL, because the P4 is oval, not circular.
This one was compressed, and I can show you that it was compressed by this. You can see it here. This is compressed. I will show you a tilted IOL later on, and this one is compressed. I can even show you here on the retinal spot diagram. You see here, this is a comma, but in this direction, you can see that it's compressed here. So in this case, it was a compressed IOL.
Yeah, it's correct. Not tilt, it's a compress.
Yeah. Otherwise, if you would have a tilted IOL, then it would be high and low, not high, low, high. Okay, this is a compressed one, and you know this can happen because you have a broken off haptic or the haptic is damaged. So this happens more than you think. Let's talk about tilted IOLs. Now we just mentioned it. Here, this is a classic case of a tilted IOL. We can see that everything is pushed to one side. We have a 0.22, which is not as high, but 90% is coma, and it's yellow. It means there is double vision. And you can see here, this is high and this is low. Okay, so where does the tilt come from? And we see here, those two images are the same. It comes from the lens, and the tilt comes here, and it will cause an astigmatism. All tilted lenses will cause an astigmatism. See here, and if you look at the image, you can see here that the haptic came out. So this is how a tilted lens will look like. I'm going to show you a different patient. Here, look at this. This is clearly a coma. Coma, higher order total, 0.34, yellow, and you see here that he has double images. During the day, it's no problem, and at night, he has this monocular diplopia. High here, low there. And you say it, and I say it, except the patient. The patient says, I have no problem with vision, I don't see double images, and the patient is right. Now, I told you before that ray tracing is the only way where you can measure difficult patients. Because all the other aberrometers, they can measure normal patients, young eyes. But from the moment that there is something wrong in the lens, those technologies will fail. Because they measure light that comes back. And if the light that comes back is already distorted by the lens or by cataract, then everything comes out is under dispute. So this is the reason why ray tracing can measure those difficult patients. And I think those are the only ones who need to be measured. I told you, I think you're clever and intelligent and you have experience. I think 80% of the patients, you don't need an iTrace. You don't need an aberrometer. You got this. But it's the 20% where you have doubts. That's where you need security. And this is the second part that I think that the iTrace is exceptionally good. Because this is what all the other systems do. Your IOL masters, OCTs, they measure automatically. And why is it that they measure automatically? Because they have an eye tracker on board and they measure in the middle of the pupil. But the iTrace is the only system on the market which automatically will measure on the visual axis. There is no coma. There is just a large angle kappa. Look how beautiful this patient is corrected through his glasses. So this is very important, I guess, that you know where the visual axis is. Does it make a difference clinically? I will show you. When I measure normal, it looks like he has a cataract. But this guy is 26 years old. This was a preoplastic. And this is because we measured in the wrong position. Look what happens if I measure on the visual axis. Okay, let's imagine that this guy, he comes to your studio, he's 50 years old like me, he has no cataract, but he wants to get rid of these reading glasses. So you do a cataract evaluation, you say, no cataract. You ask him, hey, would you like to see like this? Or would you like to see like this? 100% sure that toric is sold. You go to your MTF and you say, multifocal, no. Multifocal toric, no problem. You go to angle Kappa alpha and you say, oops, no. 800 microns, this optical system is no good for a trifocal. If you put in a trifocal here, your visual axis will be too close to the first patch of rings, and you will have an unhappy patient. Now here, you can suggest mini monovision, perhaps an EDOF, but I wouldn't do it. I would just not do a multifocal on this patient because the orientation of the eye. And sometimes I ask my doctors, do you have crazy patients? You know, I say that all the time, patients are crazy. Well, I'm now going to discuss a certified crazy patient, because that's the patient that I like most. This patient was operated with cataract, and she had a residual refraction of -1/4 and -1/4. But she could not walk very good because she was losing her equilibrium, and she fell down, she broke her hip, and now she's sitting in a chair and she's weeping all the time. So I want to measure her, and I see that she has very large pupils. You can see here the pupil, I can see the capsular rhexis. So this most probably will cause night vision problems. Now, another nice feature of the iTrace is that you can select the zone you want to measure. So here we have selected the 2.5 millimeter scan on the visual axis. And I can see already where the problem is, but this is because I use it every day. If you divide this in 4 quadrants, all the signals are in quadrant 4. You see, it looks like there is a coma. Now, the numbers will not give it to you. You see, the numbers are good, the color is good, nothing happened. But now I increase to 3 millimeters. And you see, everything stays in the 4th quadrant. And this is at 4. Now, the numbers will speak to you. 20, 26, if we 21, and it's yellow. Now we start to see what she's seeing. And I'm going to show you what she sees. Look at this. If this is her dominant eye, that's why she's falling down. Well, I didn't tell the complete story because the doctor said it could not be the cataract surgery. So she was falling down with the equilibrium. So he sends her to the ear, nose, and throat. Ear, nose, and throat. They do all the tests, all the scans, no problem, nothing found. They send her to neurologist. The neurologist does all the scans and the tests, no problem. Back to the ophthalmologist. And it's just that he did not understand that here, that this is what she's seeing. It's like that they are skiing in snow or in nebula. It means you just can't have your equilibrium. This is high and this is low. So I think that I know that the lens is tilted. I go to 5 now. 5 millimeter, I can see the night vision problems kicking in by hitting the rhexis. And at 6, we have a lot of night vision problems. Well, the night vision problems we can solve with, for instance, alpha-gun. Don't put pillow unless you dilute it 10 times, but pillow will tear will pull on the retina. Use alpha-gun and see when the pupil constricts if the problems will go away. So the night vision problems you can reduce with alpha-gun. Now I want to know where the comma is. And we see those two images are the same. The comma is in the lens. So now I have suspicion that one of the haptics is out of the bag. So I want to dilate her. In Austria, it takes 2.5 hours apparently. Yeah, and then we see that she's dilated. But I couldn't focus on the haptics. So I pushed the iTrace forward and I use it a little bit as a slit lamp. And here I have a very nice image. And I clearly see that this haptic is out of the bag. So I think I found a solution. But then I see that this haptic is out of the bag also. Okay, and this is not a sulcus lens. So now I want to know how big is the lens. So I think here, there, a 6.7 lens. Well, there's only one lens that I know of this size. This is a German lens from Dr. Schmidt, I think, of Human Optics. And then I see here, this is where the lens goes into the bag, here. And here it comes out again. Here it goes in the bag and out. Oh, so this is an optic capture. And now you start to realize what happened. Probably during the surgery, there was a capsule rupture or a zonolysis. And the doctor could not put the IOL in the bag. So he was looking for a sulcus lens, couldn't find one. And he took the biggest lens he had in his operation theater. The power was perfect. And then he did an optic capture. Now, if you look at this lens on an OCT or a Scheinflug image or whatever, you will give yourself a medal because it's so beautiful, but optically it's tilted. So this is how you can really try to understand your difficult patient. And yeah, I have another, I think perhaps some of you are using symphonies. This is a symphony toric. What I normally do is to have repeatable topographies. So I take 3 images always, 4, 6, 8. So I repeat this minus this is this. And then this minus this is this. So we have very good reproducible topographies. So I'm happy with this. I took this refraction, well, I took this wavefront. The subjective was +0.5 -1 at 80. And we found +0.5 -125 at 83. So we now know that the wavefront is good, the topography is good. And now I want to know the orientation of a toric. And we see 139, it should be 49, it's 20. And it means you have to rotate 29 degrees. And if you do so, the power will be perfect. It's a little bit overcorrected, well, that's okay. So this is how you can use the iTrace in daily practice. Now, if you would do this patient preoperatively, then would you like to see like this or like this? That's clearly a toric. The MDF, he said no, but multifocal toric, why not? And the angle alpha kappa, and we see here 641. We see that the red cross is still inside of the first ring. So for me, that is borderline. But yeah, we see where I've taken a ring around the IOL, and we see it corresponds very nice with our angle. So yeah, perhaps to recapitulate is, who do you need to measure with an iTrace? Well, first of all, everybody who comes to your studio who is not happy or doesn't see 1-0 and you don't know why. It could be somebody from a different doctor, a referral, somebody you don't know. He's not 1-0, you don't know why. An iTrace, please. The second group of people is everybody who wants to have a premium IOL. Is this cornea premium enough to support the multifocal? It is always nice to have a pre-op image for the toric. The third group is all your post-op torics. Because in this way, and only this way, you can truly examine your surgically induced astigmatism. You can see if the calculations you're using is correct. You can see if the barrette that you use is okay or not okay. So this is the only way to find out if what you are doing is good enough or the best. Don't believe marketing. Don't believe presentations. Believe your own data. And I always hear on the podium the doctor say, in my hands, this lens does this. So please be tough on yourself and check what you have done. And the last group is everybody post-op who is not 100% happy. It could be a tilted lens, it could be something else. There is plenty of reasons. And in all of those cases, the iTrace is your friend. So I've been talking for a long time. Perhaps there are some questions now.
Ho capito.
What do you think?
Karel, one question. Speaking about the importance of MTF corneal evaluation for the correct enrollment of our premium patient, which kind of diameter we need to consider? Because when we acquire both corneal and wavefront, of course, the wavefront corneal map is related to the diameter of the wavescan acquisition. So, which kind of diameter we have to consider when we evaluate the MTF high order corneal aberration?
Yes, I would take the largest scotopic scan size that you can do. Why not bigger? Because bigger the patient is not using. Like we have seen in the case here, where the IOL master and the lens star and all the others gave the wrong axis because the highest point was not where the patient was using. So I would go for the largest scotopic pupil size. Now, I will try to explain with an example. Here, let's go here. If you use your MTF, let's take let's take a bigger one. And we see here, now the MTF at 4.7 is very close to the happy point. But you can always reduce it. You can say like, hey, it could be with a multifocal that at night you have some problems. But here you can see what it will do with a smaller scan size. So I would always take the natural scotopic pupil size and then look at the MTF. If the MTF is not good enough and the patient has large pupils, you can tell them that with multifocal or trifocal, the image might not be perfect, but during the day it will be better. And sometimes they say, okay, I understand this, and that's no problem for me. Any other questions?
Karel, the last question from Andrea. The importance of ray tracing wavefront acquisition is that it is always related to the vertex acquisition. So we can use it independently from the diameter of the pupil. When we acquire with Hartmann-Shack, we have always to consider that the wavefront is related to the pupil center. So if we acquire a wavefront with Hartmann-Shack with 5 mm of diameter, it is not correct to estimate the wavefront behavior for the smaller pupil. And with Tracey, this obstacle is completely passed.
Yes.
Right?
But yes, we can see here in the settings, I can change the vertex distance. Where is it? Here, the vertex distance, I have put it at 12. We can do that. You can change it if you want. The vertex distance with ray tracing, because we have forward light, is less important than with the Hartmann-Shack. But that's not the biggest concern. Now we're talking about details. And we try to keep it simple. Hartmann-Shack is a good technology if you want to measure young patients and you want to see if you want to link it to your laser, because young patients most of the time do not have problems in the lens. The biggest problem for Hartmann-Shack is it measures the light that comes out. And so if there is something that is wrong inside the eye, it means the light that comes out will come out at a different spot. With our ray tracing, we are shooting those dots all over the pupil. And we do it one per one. That's why we can measure difficult patients. So I would say Hartmann-Shack is if it's linked to your laser, go ahead. But it's not suited to measure your crazy patients. It's not going to help you with problem cases with rotated torics. It's not going to help you with tilted lenses. It's not going to help you with PCO. It's not going to help you with cataract detection. And that is dangerous. The second thing is, like you said, it is not measured on the visual axis. Now, if you have a myopic eye, that's no problem, because those eyes are long and the visual axis will most probably be in the middle of the pupil. But hyperopic eyes, we have a visual axis that is decentered nasally. And if you think about it, now you know, with all those 20 years of experience, that when people do LASIK, they say the myopes, they're easy. The results are always good. But you have to be careful with the hyperopes, because sometimes they are less than happy. And this is because you have treated in the middle of the pupil and they are seeing through a visual axis which is nasally decentered. So that causes a natural coma, and that's why they are not happy. So by using the iTrace, I have started to understand a lot of things that were a little bit uncertain all over my 25 years of experience in ophthalmology. So now I start to understand what I didn't know 20 years ago. The last thing that I want to say is, the last couple of years, we have had more and more premium lenses. So our lenses have improved, they have upgraded, but we have not upgraded our diagnostics. So if you want to be in the premium IOL game, please consider having an iTrace, because those unhappy patients in your waiting room, they're going to kill your appetite for premiums, and they're going to make you a lot of frustration. Are there any more questions?